with their peers at their schools for Bernie. So, with this grassroots coalition, it's obvious that bringing students and young people into the political revolution is one way that we're growing the movement and bringing in new voters. But we're also expanding our movement by making sure that language isn't a barrier. So at our Bernie events, we've been doing some live translations, but we've also been making calls in Spanish for a few weeks. And within the next week, we'll be ready to start making calls in Chinese and more languages as well. Okay, and the last thing that I'll talk about before passing it back to Becca is how we are building the political revolution now. For months, we've been organizing solidarity events to support strikes, fundraising for progressive groups, and sending our supporters and volunteers to immigrant rights rallies and protests. Right now, we're planning to recruit supporters to Labor Day events all across the country to stand with workers who are fighting for fair wages and fair labor practices. And we've already sent hundreds of thousands of emails and more than 500,000 text messages to turn out for over 50 solidarity events. So we're not waiting to get to the White House to start building this political revolution. We're building it right now. And I'm so thankful to keep organizing with you for the next year and for years to come.
Thank you so much, Youngjung, and everyone on your team and all the volunteers who have made My Bernie Story, our Spanish language dialer, all of our work so successful, and our amazing student program. Thank you. We are so honored to have Michael Fasulo, our Iowa Field Director, on the call tonight. Michael is one of the busiest people on the campaign, managing our amazing program in Iowa, and I want to invite him right now to share a bit about the movement that we're building on the ground in Iowa. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, Becca, thank you so much. Like Becca said, my name is Michael Fasulo. I'm organizing on the ground in Iowa as the Iowa Field Director, and I'm so grateful to be on this call with the thousands of you. Some of you may not know this, but we have 160 days to go until the Iowa caucuses on February 3rd. And so I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing in Iowa to give you a picture of our organizing program, but more importantly, to give you a picture of what we will need to do in every state to win. And so the first is that we're running an organizing program that is focused on expanding the electorate. And what we mean by that is that we're meeting everyone where they're at. We're engaging and organizing people into a movement who've been left behind by politicians and disillusioned by the political system as it is. The second is that we're organizing everywhere, whether it's a July 4th parade, a picnic, or a Popeyes drive-thru. We have the ability with the burnout to talk to voters, to connect with them, and record their information in every county of Iowa. And the third is that we're investing in people to peoply. Winning for us in Iowa is not simply about what happens on caucus night. It's about whether we have a trained mass of regular people who have the resources to organize and win on issues like Medicare for All, canceling student debt, and stopping climate change. So while a select few people may say we're talking to no one, as you might have seen in an article, you should ask yourself, who do they mean when they say no one? And remember that we're winning. We're the largest crowd at the state fair in Iowa. We are building the largest grassroots operation in Iowa, and we will win when people come together, organize, talk to their neighbors, and get involved in this movement. That's it from me. I want to share it back over to Becca to take us forward.
Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you to every single organizer and volunteer on the ground in Iowa. We could not do this without you. We are so grateful. So we're lucky to not just have an amazing program in Iowa, but in many of the key states across this country. We have amazing organizers on the ground day in and day out, making sure that voters in these key first states are hearing about Bernie. Every week, every weekend, we make calls, we door knock, we build volunteer teams, and we're out there at community events talking about Bernie. Down in South Carolina, we're hosting basketball games to get the community engaged, knocking doors in the humidity, and talking to voters in rural and urban parts of the state. We're up in New Hampshire, where a recent poll shows that voters have been reached out by our campaign more than any other campaign. We're knocking doors all the time. We're out there at every parade. We're making ourselves seen and heard in New Hampshire. And we're over in Nevada, knocking doors in 100-degree weather, building powerful organizing operations from Reno to Vegas. And we started building an amazing operation in California with massive barnstorms across the state the past few weeks, and with over 2,000 volunteer events in California since April. Like I said, this is how we win, by organizing people, by having them talk to their neighbors, their friends, their family, by making calls to voters in Iowa and other key states, and by sharing our stories about how Bernie will transform this country. So I am just so proud of the organizing program that we built, not just driven by staff, but driven by the thousands and thousands of volunteers, many of whom are on this call today. Thank you all so much. So I'm going to turn it back to Claire now to give a little bit more depth on what's coming up in our strategy.
Thanks, Becca. So we've talked a lot about what we've done together on this campaign so far, and in just a few minutes we're going to hear directly from Bernie. But first, let's drill down on important next steps for our movement and campaign now that it's almost Labor Day and the Iowa caucus is just over 5 months out. We're entering the next phase of our organizing program in September. We've already reached millions of voters, more than any other campaign, but our goal isn't just to run the biggest grassroots campaign, our goal is to win. And to win, we need to reach even more voters than we're currently reaching. We need to find every single supporter out there, including the millions of people who are alienated from the political process, and we need to make sure that they turn out to vote. Those are people who actually are way more receptive than people who turn out to vote all the time to Bernie's message. But it takes a lot more work to actually make sure that they get out to vote, which isn't that hard to understand when you realize that oftentimes those are the people who are working 2 and 3 jobs, and maybe they got evicted, and they haven't updated their voter registration, or they don't have a driver's license, and so they're not registered to vote. Those are the challenges that we're up against when we're trying to build a movement of working class people and getting people who are not part of the political process to turn out. And that's something that we have to do. And we also have to reach out to all the people who are going to turn out no matter what, who are undecided right now. And that's millions of people. And we need to make the case to them about why they should vote or caucus for Bernie. On top of that, we need to make sure that the voters and the caucus goers we're reaching are in the right places. A real strength of ours as a campaign is that we can run a national movement and that we have so many volunteers literally everywhere all around the world. You've seen the screenshots of our map during days of action and oftentimes just randomly at other times. So if you just look at the map, our map is lit up exponentially more than any other campaign. Our campaign on a normal day has more events than any other campaign in a major push that they've really worked on for months and months. And that just is reflective of the level of enthusiasm that people have. So that's a strength of ours. But we need to make sure that we are taking all of you wonderful volunteers who are everywhere and directing your energy state by state. Because the reality is that the Democratic primary goes state by state, and how well we do in the early states like Iowa will have a huge effect on our momentum and our ability to be competitive by the time we get to the later states. So if you live in a state that doesn't have its primary until April or May or June, we're going to be asking you, starting, well, now, and then again and again and again over the next 5 months, to help us reach the voters and the caucus goers in the states with primaries and caucuses in February and the first half of March, especially Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, and to a lesser degree all the places that vote and caucus on Super Tuesday. So how are we going to do that? In order to both scale up the conversations with voters exponentially more than we are already having those conversations, and also make sure that those conversations are targeted based on what it will take to win, we're holding a week of action, September 18th through the 24th, with thousands of volunteers hosting what we're calling Plan to Win house parties. At those Plan to Win house parties, we're going to give you guidance on our plan to win, including all of the answers to the questions that you may have right now, that we're not going to have time to answer right now. And we're going to make sure that every hour of volunteer time between now and Iowa is spent in the most strategic way possible. So that when you volunteer and talk to voters on behalf of Bernie, you know that you're actually moving the needle and making it significantly more likely, collectively, that he will become president. It may feel like 5 months is a long time, but it's really not. We can't do enough between now and when the primaries and operation in history to defeat Donald Trump, and then to build the political will everywhere across this country to enact Bernie's agenda when he becomes president. So if you're ready to get started with us on this next phase of the campaign, Becca is going to walk us through all of the details of what it will mean to host a Plan to Win House party between September 18th and 24th.
Thank you so much, Claire. So everybody, are you ready? Because in just a moment, we're going to ask each and every one of you, all 5,500 people on this call, to host a Plan to Win party between September 18th and September 24th. At these parties, we're going to gather 10 to 15 of other people in our homes or a local community space or on our college campus to sit down together to hear the campaign strategy so that volunteers across the country, including all the volunteers who couldn't join this call tonight, so we can all together be grounded in our strategic plan to win this nomination for Bernie and understand what the most important work we can each do is.